So Naomi Campbell, who is potentially the most famous black model of all time, has just released her new collection with PrettyLittleThing at New York Fashion Week. Safe to say that it's not had the best reception.
Has Naomi Campbell sold her soul to PLT?
It's just giving makes no sense.
A brief note on fashion and feminism. If your feminism doesn't extend to the women making your clothes, and it doesn't extend to the women carrying your clothing waste, then is it really feminism at all?
Since this collaboration went live, she's faced criticism from the sustainability community for putting her 15 million follower count name to a fast fashion brand collection, which is exploiting people and the planet for profit. How could she possibly justify it? Luckily, this question was put to her in an interview, so we do know what her defense actually was, and it's pretty surprising.
Well, I address it like the white models, when they've done fast fashion, they were praised.
Naomi claimed that had she been a white model, the response to this collection would have been praise rather than criticism. She's also highlighted the fact that she's used this opportunity to spotlight two black designers in an industry that is very unequal in terms of opportunities. When she was asked about the environmental impact of the collection specifically, she said,
"It's the beginning. Things will change. The sustainability will come. It has to."
Do any of these claims stand up to scrutiny? Does she actually deserve the criticism that she's been given? Well, to understand the answer to these questions, we need to go a little bit deeper into PrettyLittleThing, find out what their ethical and sustainability commitments actually are, and where they land in terms of environmental impact. And then we also need to look at why she might have been saying the things that she's saying and the defenses that she was coming up with. So let's go take a look. PrettyLittleThing is a UK-based brand, and it was founded in 2012 and is owned by the Boohoo Group. It's similar to brands like Missguided, Boohoo, Primark, Cider and Shein in the fact that its whole business model is based on making massive amounts of cheap, trend-led clothing, largely made from polyester, which is made from oil, a fossil fuel. They've been in the news for selling clothes for as cheap as 8 pence during Black Friday, and the Boohoo Group came under fire in 2020 after a report revealed that in Leicester, their workers were being paid only £3.50 an hour to make their clothes, which is less than half of the UK minimum wage. The entire business model of fast fashion is built on exploitation, exploiting the planet and exploiting people, specifically women, and more specifically women of colour, because 95% of the people who make our clothes are women, and 80% of them are women of colour. We're talking about clothing being made in places like Bangladesh and India and Vietnam, where a lot of the policies around labour conditions are incredibly loose and unregulated, leading to tragedies like the collapse of the Rana Plaza in 2013, which killed over 1,000 garment workers. The ethics side of it wasn't enough. Fast fashion also thrives off using synthetic fabrics to make their products, which are not biodegradable and will be around in the landfills that we throw them into for hundreds of years. And couple that with the breakneck speed of production that we're seeing from these brands, you've got a overconsumption and overproduction crisis on your hands. So that's fast fashion in a nutshell, but where does PrettyLittleThing actually sit within all of this? Is it really that bad? Is it one of the better ones? Is it one of the worst ones? Well, throughout my brand review series, this is exactly the kind of thing that I've been looking at, giving you the tools and the tips to be able to make these judgments for yourself. So let's look a little bit deeper into what their claims are on their website and what other trusted sources are saying about PLT. One of the easiest places to find out more about a brand's sustainability claims is of course to head to their website and look at their dedicated sustainability page. So let's take a look. Now, one of the first red flags to look out for is if a brand doesn't actually include their sustainability page in their menu. This means that they really don't care enough to make it a key tenet of their brand. Usually a lot of these brands will have a tiny link in the footer of their website. So let's go there. So now that we're on the sustainability page, let's look at some of the language that they're using on here. So they're endeavoring to make a positive change and help create a more sustainable future. Looking after the planet is more important now than ever, and like many others, we want to help create a more sustainable future. We endeavour to make a positive change with the platform and the resources we have, and we'll continue to work towards ways in which we can do better and be better. This is really generic language that a lot of these brands are using. This is really similar to what Boohoo have on their website as well. It doesn't actually specify exactly what they're doing to work on their supply chain or ethics or anything like that. Now notice also the imagery that's being used. Nowhere are they actually really showing any of the workers making their clothes, the materials, where they come from, the supply chain. It's all very product focused because at the end of the day, that's what you're really here to do. You're here to be convinced to buy these clothes from them. So it looks like they have a few key parts to this. So let's dive into each of these sections one by one. And I can see that they've got a PLT marketplace, which seems to be a second-hand marketplace. Let's come back to that one. Let's go into these individual pages first. So clothes made smarter. As we're looking at these pages, let's really focus on whether they're being specific or vague, because we can't hold them to account if they haven't clarified what it is that we're supposed to hold them to. So they're saying that they're making clothes in a smarter way, whatever that means. By using materials that are more sustainably sourced, we're hoping to reduce the impact had on the environment and create a more sustainable future. Again, just really vague stuff. By 2025, all our polyester and cotton products will contain recycled or more sustainably sourced materials. What percentage? Like 2% of it will be recycled or more sustainably sourced, whatever more sustainably sourced means. And then by 2030, all the materials we use will be more sustainably sourced. You can't really get more vague than that. So here we've got something about a recycling scheme. If you've seen my most recent video about a report that came out not that long ago about what actually happens to clothes that are donated into these fashion take-back schemes, then you'll know that these schemes actually do not work as well as these brands are claiming that they do. Most of the clothing giving back to these brands is actually discarded and still ends up in landfill, even if the clothes are good enough to be resold, even if they're basically as good as new. I'm not going to go deeper into that here, but you can watch the other video to get all the details. So let's just focus on this. The fact that they're promoting this is another red flag. They're trying to make it seem like they've thought about the end of life solution for their products, i.e. what happens to them when you throw them away. But you can tell by the language that that's not exactly what they've committed to. Notice how it puts the emphasis on you and what you can do. Did you know you can do your bit to prevent the unnecessary pile up of discarded clothing? What about what you can do, PLT? What about slowing down your production, using natural materials, designing things to be part of a circular economy? What about making products that are actually easier to recycle? Because polyester is not easy to recycle. Don't put the responsibility all on us here, because we are not actually the biggest source of the problem. Now that I've got that little rant out, let's see some of those other pages. Working with our suppliers. Now, isn't it funny that a page about suppliers has no images of the supply chain, the factories, or the workers? Isn't it also interesting how they make no reference to independent audits or certifications for their supply chain? That said, this bit here is quite interesting. We have published our global factory list. We have also got an interactive map hosted by the Open Apparel Registry that shows our factories. Let's go have a look at that map. Okay, so on this website, it looks like you can see the full list of their factories. Okay, that's a lot of factories. It's a lot of factories. I mean, which is great, because they are sharing a list of their suppliers, which is kind of step one to transparency and traceability. But this is a lot of suppliers, which really just goes to show the scale of these businesses. Like, they are massive and they are churning out so many clothes every single day, which in itself is completely unsustainable. But going back to their website, they also say, as a group, we set up and donated £1 million to an independent government workers trust in Leicester so that any workers can get advice and access to grants if they need it. Isn't this just following the massive outcry from that report in 2020 that revealed that they were essentially using slave labour in Leicester? Would they have actually done this of their own accord? Hard to tell. Now, like I said, whilst publishing a list of your suppliers is step one to traceability and transparency, let's actually put that in perspective of other brands. Let's compare this to the customer traceability experience that you get with a brand like Sheep Inc., which is a carbon negative wool brand. Sheep Inc. adds a tag to each of their items, which is like a little button that you can tap with your phone, revealing exactly what stages of the supply chain your product went through when, including climate impact. That is traceability. What are the Boohoo group doing in comparison? Basically the bare minimum, and it's been forced on them by a public scandal. What else have we got here? Our business promise. So, By 2020, we hope to achieve carbon reductions across our value chain aligned with science-based targets equivalent to 52% reduction in emissions relative to our growth. Okay, how? How will you do that? Using renewable energy, using less plastic, natural fabrics? What's the actual plan to get there? And also, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing against these targets? Because it's really easy to set a goal for 2030 or 10 years time or 5 years time and then do nothing to actually get there because it's in the future and people will say, oh, they've got a policy, they're working towards it, but there's no actually evidence that things are getting done. And lastly, Cotton Connect. This is a program that trains cotton farmers in Pakistan to make cotton farming more sustainable. I would really like to know how much more sustainable this cotton farming actually is, because they don't really provide any data on that. And why aren't they using organic cotton? Why is it just more sustainable cotton? Also, okay, so this is cotton, but most of your clothes are made from plastic. So how is this gonna have the impact we need? Nothing? No? Okay, I'll just move on. Now let's go back to this PLT marketplace thing. So resell, rewear, recycle. Let's see this in the App Store. So it's got 3 stars, not the best start. Let me have a scroll on this. So secondhand fashion is fantastic. Shopping secondhand is one of the best things that you can do to reduce the environmental impact of the clothes that you buy. However, this does come with some caveats. So secondhand fashion is great if you aren't over consuming it like you might with new clothing, and also if it's actually made from materials that are recyclable and biodegradable. Those are the best types of secondhand purchases. The reality is that secondhand marketplaces like this one are full of fast fashion pieces which get thrown away eventually anyway, and they end up clogging up our planet anyway. They're also likely to be full of these fast fashion trend-led pieces, so they will go out of style so much quicker and you'll end up wearing them less anyway. Now that we've got a good idea of what their claims are, I mean, things aren't looking very good, but let's have a bit of a Google and see what kind of news articles come up about them, what independent journalists are saying about PrettyLittleThing. So I've just found this article from Green Matters titled "Why Anti-Fast Fashion Activists Protested the PrettyLittleThing Fashion Show." Sounds about right. Now in here they also mentioned that the brand uses leather, wool and down without information about where those animal materials come from. We didn't see an animal welfare policy anywhere on their website, so... And then it says that PLT claims to be going greener by selling the £5 dress. So let's see what that is. These dresses are still on trend. This is all still trendy, which means that it will probably be out of style in a month's time. I see this all the time where brands use accessibility and affordability as an excuse to sell things really cheaply, when really the reason that those products can be so cheap is because someone somewhere is paying the cost for them. Whether that is garment workers in a far off country that we don't actually get to see, or future generations in the not even that far off future. Someone else is paying the price there. So this whole argument that we're making fashion accessible is just a load of rubbish. Fashion should not be this cheap. Openly admitting to being a fast fashion brand and saying that you really love that and that that's something that you're really proud of is not the flex that you think it is. So my question now is, how many of these dresses are they selling? What percentage of their stock is made up of this dead stock fabric dress? Like 1%? 2% maybe, and the rest is still made from virgin polyester. These brands need to stop promoting these gimmicks as if they are the solution for their brand to becoming more environmentally sustainable and ethical, because that's all they are. They're just gimmicks. They're not being applied to the rest of the supply chain. If they were saying, we're gonna make all of our clothes out of dead stock fabric, incredible, but there's no way that they'd be able to produce the number of items that they are producing every single day with that approach, which is obviously why they don't do it. Another great place to see how ethical or sustainable a brand is Good On You. This is an app that has rated hundreds of fashion brands from we avoid to great. PrettyLittleThing scores a not good enough on Good On You. Good On You justify this by noting that PrettyLittleThing uses few eco-friendly materials. There's no evidence it is taking meaningful action to reduce or eliminate hazardous chemicals. It has set science-based targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but there's no evidence that it's on track to meet them, and so on. A final great place to find the lowdown on a brand is to head to The Ethical Consumer. Let's see what they have to say, although I think you get the picture by now. It received a worst ethical consumer rating for environmental reporting, climate change, pollution and toxics, palm oil sourcing, animal testing, animal rights, worker rights, supply chain management, and tax conduct. Well, there we go. Now that we have the full picture of the brand, was Naomi wrong to partner with them? I would say yes. Inexcusably so. Now, I don't want this to turn into a witch hunt against Naomi. She's actually done a lot of great activist and charity work over the years. She's founded 2 different charities, one for supporting people living in poverty in Brazil, and another one supporting victims of natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina in 2005. But to me, all of that great work that she's done makes it even more baffling that she's been so blind to the impact that the fast fashion industry, and PrettyLittleThing in particular, is having on workers and the exploitation that is going on. Surely she knows something about it. Surely she's been in the fashion space for long enough that she understands a little bit about the sustainability movement and what it's all about. But based on the comments that she's made, that doesn't seem to be the case. Or she's incredibly willfully ignorant and she's just turning a blind eye to it so that she can make more profit through collaborations like this and appeal to a younger audience. Moreover, the fact that she's claiming that white women don't get called out for things like this is just incorrect. Molly May got called out for it by activists in 2021 when she became the creative director for PLT. Kourtney Kardashian got called out for it when she became the sustainability ambassador for Boohoo as well. But on top of that, this completely ignores the fact that the people that are most harmed by the unethical nature of PrettyLittleThing's supply chain are women of color. As Natalie Binns has written, no one experiences the effects of racism in the fashion industry more than garment workers, who are mostly women of color. The fast fashion model thrives on the exploitation of these people. I can understand why her thought process might have jumped to the defense that it did, considering that she spent so much of her time campaigning for racial equality within the fashion space, but in this case, she was just incorrect. As for the claim that sustainability will just happen because it has to, this is kind of sad and really frustrating because it's ignoring the incredibly difficult inch-by-inch work that is being done by sustainable fashion activists to change the industry, to change consumer behavior, and to introduce more legislation and policy into this space. She's just completely ignorant of the amount of work that is going into the sustainable fashion movement, apparently. The comment also makes it sound like she's just created this amazing sustainable collection with an ethical brand as a way to drive change in the industry. Like I said, she's got 15 million followers on Instagram. She has a massive influence. But that's not what she's done. She's contributed to the problem and then offered up this vague solution saying that it must happen in the future, but she's not actually helping to bring it about. Sustainability won't come unless brands do better and consumers and people with influence like Naomi demand better. She could have used that fame to collaborate with a small, independent, Black-owned business, but she chose not to do that. She chose to instead appeal to a younger audience of women who are into fast fashion. So I think that we can say that this was a mistake on Naomi's part, and she's come across as incredibly ignorant about all the issues within the fashion supply chain, which is really weird considering that she's spent so much of her life in it and also been a campaigner and an activist within the space. I just don't see how she could not have any knowledge of it. But if you enjoyed this video and you found this analysis interesting, then don't forget to leave a like and to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the collaboration and what brand should I review next? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, stay kind. See you later. Bye.